It's good to see some people live and even more people on Zoom just to talk about where we are at Schechter and to be together to do so. So I want to begin, as I always like to do, with just a short piece of Torah from this week's Torah portion. It's a line that comes around the time of the giving of the Torah at Sinai, where the people state, Na'aseh v'nishma. Everything that God has stated, Na'aseh, we will do, v'nishma, we'll understand. There's a classic question about this verse, which is, wouldn't we expect to hear, we'll understand things first, and then we'll do them? It's the opposite in the verse. So rabbis and thinkers have offered many explanations that involve all kinds of things. Some of them go along the lines of, even if we don't understand something, we should still do it anyway. And there is sometimes a place for that kind of approach. But as an educator, I see it differently. What the Israelites were saying in that verse is that we really want to learn. And the best way to learn is by doing. So na'aseh, we will do. And through that action, we will understand, we'll learn. Which really captures a lot of what we try to be about here at Schechter. So tonight, I want to take us through some of the highlights of Schechter's amazing story at this moment in the school's life. And I organized those highlights according to our core values. I want to acknowledge some of the challenges and opportunities that we face moving forward, and then hopefully at the end, allow a little bit of time for questions. I had a plan that the live audience is welcome to write questions down on paper and give them to Jason. I think with our crowd, I'm comfortable with you just calling out at the right moment. And I will say, if you're on Zoom and you have questions, I'm not going to monitor the chat, but Jason fellow will, and he can pass on questions to me. As we go through the highlights, I just want to point out three larger themes that I think you'll see emerging again and again. One of them involves creativity. This belief that we have that nurturing creativity as a disposition and working our belief that creating is an essential element of learning. You'll see that coming up again and again. The theme of kavod, the Hebrew word for respect, you'll see throughout tonight how hard we're working to build a culture of mutual respect. And finally, you'll see a theme where you'll see our work to strengthen our ability to support diverse learners. So this past summer, the board engaged in an amazing endeavor to revise our mission statement and update our core values. And the power of these core values is not just as like good words on the page, but they guide us, remind us why we're here. So our first core value, chokhmah, wisdom. We believe true wisdom comes when we ask complex questions, consider multiple perspectives with empathy, grapple with original texts and primary sources, study the world around us, and discover personal meaning. And as a school that values education, chokhmah comes first. So how do we see chokhmah play out in our school this year? I have a few slides in this core value because again, it's what we're all about. And I'm beginning with 4 pieces from the early childhood program. Because the joy and the curiosity and the creativity that we nourish here at Schechter starts in our EC. If you've ever wondered why we don't call it preschool, it's because that phrase implies that real school starts in kindergarten and anything earlier is preschool. That's not our belief, right? We're all about early childhood education. Among the highlights this year, EC students always love the Jewish holidays, and they have always come alive in the halls of Schechter. But Robin and I worked together to bring some new overarching ideas and fun details about Hanukkah to the staff. We studied rabbinic texts together, we planned together, and then they worked to bring them to life with our students. Robin's leadership also brought about a new format for EC conferences that really put front and center evidence of the student work, the student learning, videos of the student, how they functioned, to give parents a better picture of how their children are learning and growing. And that new format was a great success. On our November Professional Development Day, the EC staff took a field trip to 2 schools in Boston. Again, one more example of how our teachers never stop learning. And finally, Hebrew. We want our youngest students to start learning Hebrew. Obviously not through a formal sit-down class, but through natural use in an appropriately bilingual class environment. But our challenge, which is not limited to Schechter, it's a common one in the Jewish day school world, is that our early childhood teachers are early childhood specialists, but they're not Hebrew teachers. So how do we move the needle to bring more Hebrew into our classrooms? Anat Klimor, our Hebrew coordinator, worked with Robin Werner and the EC team to create an enhanced Hebrew vocabulary list tailored to the way our classes function, to help our staff incorporate more and more Hebrew so that our kids are more and more fluent from our youngest ages. More on Chochmah, on our work towards wisdom. So last year before Purim, Sarah Montag brought Steam Fest to our school. Small student teams of multiple grades put together brainstormed ways to enhance Purim through engineering and design. They built prototypes and then actual projects, from working conveyor belts to assemble mishloach manot, to costumes with built-in noisemakers and groggers. It was an unbelievable fusion of creativity and collaboration and joy. So stay tuned this year for Pesach Steam Fest. Construction on the Scott Shohan Makerspace Design Studio is well underway. It will be a focal point for our efforts to take creativity and engineering and hands-on learning and different ways to demonstrate learning to a whole new level at Schechter. Stay tuned for the grand opening next month. But while the makerspace itself may not open until March, the makerspace learning, the makerspace activities have been going on since September. So I'll share a small story of this that some of you may have heard before. We have on Friday afternoons, once a month, a special Kabbalat Shabbat program for our third through eighth graders. And we try to invite a special guest. But there was a time in November or so when I had not gotten the chance to invite a special guest. And so what did I do? I went to our eighth graders and I said, guys, let's talk over Kabbalat Shabbat this week and what we can do. And they immediately went to this great makerspace activity they had earlier that week. And it involved designing cars. And we talked about how that weekly car portion had the matriarch Rebecca going to bring water to lots of camels. And they decided, what if the cars were to bring water to the destination? They brought it to life. They organized our third through seventh graders, the teams, to build different cars and had a competition. What I learned from all that is just that when students do something so fun in their class that they can't wait to share it with their peers, you know something good has happened. So more makerspace news is on the way, but it's already been a highlight of our year at Schechter. Last year we began learning once a week in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade with the Small School Alliance. Schools as far away as Greensboro and Omaha come together with us virtually once a week to learn, to connect to each other. And those classes culminated last year in trips to Alabama, Washington, D.C., and Israel. This combination of exciting learning, social connections, and unforgettable learning experiences has become a highlight for our middle school. Athletics. So with the hard work of our new PE teacher, Coach Sullivan, our students are developing skills and playing lots of games. We're really back to sort of pre-COVID levels of inter-school play. And as our middle school grows, we have hopes to offer even more. Drama was a highlight this year. Barbara Lewis directed over 20 students in an amazing production of How to Eat Like a Child. She brought the most out of every single student in the production. Even if you didn't know the actors, you still would have laughed because it was hysterical. But parents and siblings and teachers alike couldn't believe how our children shined on stage. Our art program is strong. You see art all over the walls of our school, led by Leanne Fisher. And our electives in the middle school that feature other teachers as well are extremely popular. And here I want to pay tribute to Jamie, who in addition to his work on technology, has helped the specialty team work more together as a team and integrate them into our faculty, and it's had a real impact. In addition to all these important arts, I want to make sure we talk about reading. For several decades, there have been ongoing debates in the United States about how best to teach reading. And at Schechter, through early last year, we have been using a blend of two approaches, some phonics and some of the Teachers College sort of blended approach to reading strategies. Like many educators last year, Sarah Montag and I learned there was an overwhelming amount of research that phonics-based approaches are essential. And the other approaches can actually impair the decoding that's an essential step in reading. So Sarah jumped into action. She engaged a consultant to help us switch our practice to fully phonics-based. We adopted a curriculum called the U-Fly. Our teachers received intensive and ongoing training, and we secured a federal grant to bring in a reading specialist. The hope was that the curriculum and instruction would result in fewer kids needing intervention, and that the specialist would enhance our ability to help those students who still needed it. And only 5 months in, the results are clear. More of our students are learning to decode more quickly and more accurately because of our trained, hardworking teachers. And fewer of our students need that extra support, and those who do are making tremendous gains because of what we're able to offer. It is a wonderful success story. So those are some of the highlights this year, all in the realm of chokhmah, of learning, of wisdom. Lev Tov. We believe that by learning to love kindness, pursue justice, treat all human beings with respect, and care for our natural world, our students develop a good heart and a strong moral compass. So a small sample of the Lev Tov highlights. Number one is our work this year on the Kavod initiative. Our explanation of Lev Tov, which I'll flip back to for a second, says that a good heart isn't just about intentions or feelings. Having a good heart means that you act, and that, among other things, you treat all human beings with respect. This has always been a goal for our teachers at Schechter, but we haven't had a coordinated school-wide approach or shared language for teaching how to treat each other, how to walk in the hallways, how to get quiet in assemblies, how to live with kavod. This year, Anat Klimor, in addition to her work with Hebrew, has taken a new leadership role to get us moving together in the right direction. It's called Kavod for Respect. Partnering with Jill Jengris, our school counselor, and Sarah and Robin and Dr. Charlotte Mann, and now the teacher team, we are working to adopt a strong school-wide curriculum that will help us build the culture we want more consistently every day. So speaking of Dr. Charlotte Mann, she's a board-certified behavioral analyst, that's what BCBA refers to, who had worked with some families in our community. And this year, we have engaged her in a consulting capacity so that her expertise can help us, not just individual students one at a time, but also help train our teachers. She's helping us to react better to students when they're having a hard time, and to proactively build systems to help those students be their best. Those two previous items, those highlights, are about us as a school working to strengthen Lev Tov. The third item is a little different. Our fifth graders went to Teva, which is a Jewish environmental education center, earlier this year. And part of their experience was measuring and trying to minimize food waste. Meanwhile, in our cafeteria, we haven't been successful teaching our students about what gets composted and what gets recycled and what gets tossed. And we realized that the best way to make things better was to have those fifth graders take a leadership role. And so, assisted by Lori Stanfield in her capacity as middle school science teacher, they are going to help us teach all of our students how to send less to the landfill and more to compost. Again, caring for our natural world, Lev Tov coming to life. Kihila, community. We believe in the power and beauty of our inclusive, diverse community, where students build friendships across grades, families connect to one another, and everyone can find a home. So the Shevet program that we debuted last year is still ongoing. For special occasions and holiday programming, we have these multi-age groups, some 8th, some 7th, some 6th graders, all the way down, working together on holiday-based projects. And that's one way we knit our student body together as one kihila. Our Parents Association, led by Rachel Glantz and Carrie Zabatsky, has done so much this year. A parent art night making beautiful glass mezuzot. Shabbat B'Yachad, which allowed Schechter families to join other families in their homes for a dinner together. An amazing new model for our school book sale, trivia night, and more. Thank you to our Parents Association for all that you do. Now, regarding alumni, Schechter is in its 53rd year. We have decades of proud and successful alumni. But despite some real previous efforts, we haven't succeeded in staying in touch with them. This fall, for the first time in recent memory, we reconnected with hundreds of alumni. Audrey Sobel, our Director of Communications, led an effort still ongoing to gather alumni addresses. And then she produced a vibrant newsletter in November, featuring an interview with beloved former teacher Nancy Rosen and dozens of alumni updates and other news about the school. The next issue will be published in May. And if anybody, this is especially calling to the Zoom crowd, if you or your children are alumni, please make sure we have their contact information. Be in touch with Audrey. Our most significant work on the core value of Kehillah, community, this year comes through our efforts to build a culture of belonging. Keshet led a powerful workshop with our teachers on issues of gender identity and sexual orientation. The ADL did a training on recognizing and confronting bias. Facing History is coming in a few weeks to work with us on fostering civil discourse during difficult conversations, not to avoid them, but to talk, as we say in the Jewish sources, in a way that's l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven, to cross divides. And all of these initiatives are important and will lead to student-led work on strengthening our culture. And finally comes our work to strengthen our ability to support more diverse learners. Once upon a time, Jewish day schools could say, we're really only for students who can independently handle a challenging dual curriculum. If that's not you or your child, we're truly sorry, but we might not be the right place. That hasn't been Schechter's approach for a long time. Our teachers have long been working to support all their student needs and to challenge all students appropriately. And we have a wonderful learning specialist. But still, we want and need to keep expanding our ability to include. In collaboration with the New England Jewish Academy, we applied for and received a grant from the Jewish Community Foundation to arrange Gateways, a Boston-based organization, to help us. Now, Gateways has experience helping schools to step up their efforts. It's going to be a multi-year process. This year, we're identifying our goals and our needs. Next year comes heavy work with our teachers to give them further skill. The impact on students will take a little while to feel, but it is coming. We will also work to deepen our bench of specialists. But again, the real work comes with equipping all of our teachers to handle more diverse learning needs and more diverse learning abilities. And that's why the Gateways process relies on a teacher-led task force to bring about change. Because the best and most enduring kind of change comes when the teachers are a part of shaping it. Our goal, which we are taking more and more steps towards, is to be the right school for more and more learners in the Jewish community. We want our Kehillah to be as broad as possible. Mitzvot, which is a new core value that we've articulated, although it's always been part of Schechter's culture. We believe in the power of mindful, meaningful, joyful Jewish practice. Some mitzvot can connect us to our fellow human beings. Others can connect us to the divine. And all offer opportunities to add holiness to our lives. So, Judaic's programming so far is one area where mitzvot come alive. The Chumash program, where the Elephant family has enabled us to give beautiful Chumashim to our students, starting in 3rd grade and extra volumes as they grow. The Havdalah program that takes place in kindergarten every year, where our students learn Havdalah and parents come and they create Havdalah kits together. The new Rosh Chodesh program, which we began last year and now is a fixture of Alim, our 3rd, 4th grade classroom, where our students learn more skills and sing with gusto and joy. Our 5th grade Torah reading program, where our 5th graders learn not just how to memorize the Torah reading and get up there and develop points, which is not a small thing, but they learn the skills to teach themselves future Torah readings. Rabbi Steve Chatnover, who I want to share with you, is in his 36th year here at Schechter. When we talk about alumni connections, really, he keeps it up and represents so much to our school and our alumni. He currently teaches 7th and 8th graders, but we want to bring him in and have students in younger grades learn from him and meet him. And so he helped our 3rd and 4th graders on Hallel, and he taught our 5th graders how to read Torah. Every single student who read Torah 2 weeks ago worked hard. And every single student ended up doing far more than they thought they could do. It was such a powerful morning. Mitzvot coming alive. And finally, I want to share this new program that we have happening approximately once a month, which is that visiting rabbis from local synagogues come to learn with our 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students on Fridays. They get to know the students and build relationships, and they also get to learn some Torah with them. And that's been a nice addition to how we bring Judaism alive. And while our students are learning with those rabbis, I've begun offering a Parsha and parenting class. And I'll put in a plug. Keep your eye out for Audrey's email to see when the next one is. We're having a good time together, having really powerful and honest discussions about parenting and again how some of the light the Torah can shed. I'd love to see even more of you there. And our final core value of Klal Yisrael, which refers to the unity of the Jewish people. We believe in the unity of the Jewish people and celebrate the variety of beliefs, ethnicities, and traditions that exist at Schechter and in Jewish communities worldwide. We treasure Israel and the Hebrew language as threads that connect the Jewish people to each other, to our past, and to our future. And again, we drafted this over the summer. And it spoke to all of us then, and hopefully it speaks to you as well. We always care about this core value, but it took on extra importance after the horrors of October 7th. Our community responded so powerfully and with such unity. Our students wrote letters to Israelis who had a Schechter connection. We sent supplies to reserve soldiers. We talked to our students in age-appropriate ways so they could feel connected to Israel. And we took action. Our students and families showed up to the rally at West Hartford's town hall. They showed up to the community vigil at the Emmanuel Synagogue. They wrote letters to politicians, urging them to support Israel, and welcomed Governor Ned Lamont. Middle schoolers traveled with Nija students on a special student bus to the rally in DC. We Zoomed with a unit of reservists operating near Gaza. Our students know, and they maybe always knew this, but now they know through doing, that when trouble comes, they act, they reach out, they write letters, they march, they show up. And the most powerful expression of this core value has been our chance to welcome a total of 5 Israeli families, 11 students in all, to our small school who came to Greater Hartford during this war. We love these families and we love these students. And while they came for an unfortunate reason, we want their time at Schechter to be full of blessings. It's not a trivial thing to come to a new school for any student mid-year. And when English is not your native language, it's even harder. And to land smoothly in difficult times, I want to single out Anat Kimor for doing outstanding work day after day, week after week, to help each of these students feel truly at home and learning and embraced. I want to share just one small story which combines my role as head of school with my role as a parent of students in Alim, our 3rd and 4th grade classroom. Through winter break, we had welcomed students in almost every classroom in our school, besides Alim. And my sons, one of them in particular, had befriended all the Israeli students at recess and tried to get to know them and even speak Hebrew with them. But they and their classmates lamented that they hadn't yet had a chance to welcome Israelis to their class. Now, I think they know that it's not an entirely happy thing when a family has to leave Israel in the middle of the year. But from their perspective, right, we had done such a great job of teaching about Klal Yisrael and welcoming guests, that they really wanted a chance to act. And then in January, our final family came in from Israel. And this family, a 4th grader. I can't tell you how excited the Alim students were to welcome us. When it comes to Klal Yisrael, I could not be prouder of our community. And we see it every day with our students. This is now not just words on a page. This is a part of their hearts. It's how they live now and how they will live. And I will take a moment now to put in a plug for Ner Tamid. This year's school celebration, the theme is our connection to Israel. Save the dates have gone out, invitations will be going out. It's going to be our chance to come together as a community and again show how we feel connected to Israel, pay tribute to people who helped bring Israel and Israelis to our community and those who've come from Israel to represent. It will be wonderful to be in that room all together. Those are highlights of the school year built around our core values, and they're in general the educational and programmatic highlights. But I want to talk about a few other things as well. This is one picture of our school's recent history. Again, we're over 50 years old. This is the chart of our enrollment. The first bar is over 10 years ago, 2011 to 2012. And as you can see, the school went up and down around the 140, 150 mark. And there followed a few years of decline. We got smaller, and then successive years of growth and growth and more growth. What's behind our growth? First of all, I want to say, I think the first reason behind our growth is all the slides we just went through, all the highlights that I shared. Kids thrive at Schechter, and this leads to good retention and good word of mouth. Our adjusted retention over the last 3 years, and adjusted means we exclude families who had to move out of town for a job or a fellowship or something. Our adjusted retention has been 90%, which in the independent school world is amazing. And our recruitment has been strong because the good word about what happens at Schechter has been spreading. Number 2 factor behind our growth is our commitment to constant improvement. Everybody knows that wherever Schechter is this year, we're going to be even better next year. One of my goals, in a sense, is to make all of our alumni jealous. I want the 9th graders saying, wait, they get to do that? Why did I graduate last year? I want it every single year, more and more. And that commitment to constant improvement is a part of our growth. And finally, I want to pay tribute to Karen Schechter for her amazing work and retention. Making sure that all those families walking around Greater Hartford who could really beautifully be at home here find their way here. And making sure that all the families that have found their way here know that they're being seen and listened to and thought about. Karen makes it all happen. Last year, when I stood here, we talked about one of the challenges being growth in the EC and how are we going to do it. And part of this growth, right, is that we were able to bring more kids into the EC and staff it not just responsibly, but amazingly with an amazing team. That is something truly to note. And so you'll see, it's a condensed version of the chart I showed last year, that if you look at our last 5 years of enrollment and just focus on the fact, not the small numbers that you probably can't read, but that a blue box represents double digits in any grade. Right? That 5 years ago, we had very few grades in double digits and most were smaller. And year by year, we've grown. Not a bubble because of COVID or anything like that. It's because of the job that we're doing with our kids and the stories that parents help to share. Amazing things are happening. And while I don't include a projection for next year on this chart, we feel good about what will be next year. And that's an important piece of the state of the school. So let's talk about development for a moment, which is also an important piece of the school. Last spring, our wonderful veteran director of development, Sherry Pliskin, accepted a position at the Jewish Federation of Greater Hartford. And we wished her the best in her work on behalf of the broader Jewish community and conducted a search. We were so lucky to find an outstanding new professional, Nicole Schechter, who brings great organizational skills and people skills and a love of Schechter. We were just starting on a great new path. And then unfortunately, Nicole had to take a personal leave for a few months. I will share just that she's doing well, and she's back at Schechter in the process of returning fully to our staff, but for a few months, we had a real need. Some communities would have struggled and not known what to do. And the school in those communities might have really struggled as a result. But our amazing lay leaders have stepped up in every way to ensure that our donors remain engaged and connected to Schechter and that Schechter stays strong. I want to single out our board chair, Reva Lewinter, who's on Zoom, and Tali Kess and Gail Temkin for their tremendous work. We can be so proud of where we are right now in February. And along the way, Reva, Gail, and especially Tali have been building a development infrastructure. We have been developing all this time so that as Nicole returns, we really will be stronger than ever. And I'll end with this slide by saying that we all have a part to play. Everything that we give to the school supports our present and helps us to build a more solid future. Thank you all for all of you that you do. And finally, there's the behind the scenes aspects of school. Technology, thankfully, in our school is actually largely unseen. Jamie works so hard to make sure that things run smoothly, that we have the bandwidth, that we have the Wi-Fi working, that we have the devices we need. And I'm so grateful to have that partnership, in addition to everything else he brings with arts, etc. For our facility, capital improvements and maintenance. I want to especially thank Marco Signorello and the facilities subcommittee. I get to welcome many visitors to our building. And I have to tell you, I get great reactions, whether they're other educational leaders or prospective parents or students visiting to play a basketball game. People notice the size of its building, its cleanliness, the student art on the walls, etc. We really are so lucky to have this building. But at the same time, if you spend a lot of time here, you can probably list a dozen things that are in need of repair or could be improved. But here's the crucial point. We have begun addressing our building's needs in a way that we haven't been able to do in recent years. We replaced one of our rooftop heating and cooling units that was really needed replacement for a little while now, and the others are in full repair. The front railings in front of the school have been repaired, and on and on. We've deferred replacing our roof for years, but this is going to be the year that we get the job done. So we're grateful for our facility, and we're grateful to be in a position where we can address all these needs. Security, too, is always a priority. And while I can never share too many details, I will say that we've been adding measures every single year. Some involve our building, some involve training staff and students, all involve extra vigilance. We partner with local law enforcement and with Johnny Colangelo and the Secure Communities Network. And we are currently exploring next steps and more steps in light of the situation in our world, and especially in Israel, that we're all aware of. And again, we never rest when it comes to making this place more secure for our children. We conduct a full financial audit every year. And I'll say the actual requirements of our accreditation agency is not every year, but we do it every year. And we again received a clean audit. And that's due both to the work of Marco and also to our finance committee, led by Alan Tuvin. We are so grateful for your attention. And there's tremendous progress with our annual budget. This isn't the place to go into deep details, but I'll say that our budget, which was long reliant on extraordinary contributions to get us through the year, at this point is just about where we want it to be. And that's due to the hard work of the finance committee, and it's due to our growing enrollment, and it's due to our amazing fundraising efforts. And that's an important thing to put out there for the state of the school, is that not only what's happening in classrooms today good, but we have a foundation in place to keep it so for the future. I would also be remiss, I mentioned the Jewish Community Foundation earlier, and grants they've given us to help us along the way, but also the Jewish Federation of Greater Hartford, with its annual allocation, is tremendous. And I express my gratitude to the Federation for being a partner, my gratitude to all of us, and it should be all of us who support its work. I'll close this slide, and we're almost done with this presentation, with something that might seem small. Aftercare, Saharon. It's not what we think of as our primary purpose, right? We're about the school day. Aftercare is afterwards. But I will say that it's important to parents. It's deeply important. When I first came to Schechter 3 years ago, we had up to 20 students, sometimes more, from ages 2 to 10 in the same room with 2 hardworking, trustworthy staff people. But 2 people with 20 kids of all those ages in one room, it wasn't accepted. But we weren't able to do much better. Last year, we strengthened staffing. We split the program into a younger and an older room. And this year, we're really fully staffed. So as with the building, there's always room for more improvement. But Saharon is a great example of how the place in which we find ourselves now could hardly have been imagined only a few years before. In all kinds of important ways, the state of our school is amazing. Now, I want to acknowledge that we also face challenges and opportunities, and this gives me a chance to express our commitment. One ongoing area of challenge has been in our Anafim, first and second grade classroom. For all kinds of reasons, despite the hard work and dedication of our teachers, daily life hasn't been consistently smooth in Anafim. But at Schechter, we're committed to a kind of learning that's full of joy and creativity and academic challenge. We know how important it is for students to respect each other and their teachers and themselves and the process of learning. We have not and will not back down from any of these commitments. We will never offer excuses, say we tried really hard and call it a day. Because of these commitments to joyful learning, creativity, challenge, we brought in Dr. Charlotte Mann. Because of her expertise, she's helped us create the right incentive systems and learn how to better handle difficult situations. We actually installed an accordion wall in the classroom. Special thanks to Guy Newman, whose workers made it happen in record time, because this group of students needed more structure and a smaller space in which to learn. And Sarah and Anat have devoted hours to supporting the teachers and helping students who need extra help. I can't say that we are yet where we want to be, but we have made tremendous progress, which Anafim parents will get to see in our Mi Ani program next Tuesday. And we'll keep on working until we feel we can fully celebrate. As I shared, we are working hard to strengthen our social and emotional framework. We've done so much, and we have more to do. So stay tuned throughout this year and next year for further work in this area, adopting a curriculum, training our teachers, making it so that in every single classroom, we have joy and comfort. And finally, I'll just say, we continue to face the challenge of being both financially sustainable and at the same time affordable and attainable for all students and families in Greater Hartford who want Jewish education for their children. As I tried to share, we have made great progress in our commitment to both financially sustainable and attainable will never cease. So that challenge will be up next year and the year after. It's not going to go away. But our commitment to doing it and to meeting that challenge, again, it's unflagging. So I want to close with some gratitude. What is it that allows us to go Michael El Chayil from strength to strength? So first of all, it's all these partnerships with our faculty, with the amazing administration, with our outstanding board who steps up in all kinds of ways, with other lay leaders who support us, with our community. Together, we're on this journey of joy and creativity and learning towards excellence. I'll express my gratitude to the board, again, the administration, and I'll close with these two texts that I think about a lot this year. Adonai oz la'amo yitain. Adonai yivarech et amo b'shalom. May God grant strength to Israel and bless them with peace. Part of the Torah service, it's part of Mizmor David, a psalm that's sung on Friday nights. And it talks about the fact, right, that it sometimes takes strength to get to a place of peace. And we're all longing for peace. We all want that shalom. And I think we know that that strength is going to be required to get there. But we might have in mind just military strength, right? The strength of the IDF. And that's important, but there's more. Every single time we take out the Torah, we invoke this really strange verse. Vayhi Yitzhak Haaron, Vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai v'yafutzu oivecha. Right? When the ark began to move in the desert, and we say this when we open our ark, Torah ark, to read the Torah, what would Moses say? Rise up, God, and may the enemies scatter. What is this juxtaposition of the ark and the Torah and enemies? So I posed this question once to middle school students. And some of them talked about how, it means that they believe that when God is with them, they won wars. But then one student, it's always great when it's like the final person you call on who offers the most beautiful answer, said maybe here the enemy isn't just enemies, it's ignorance and all that ignorance can lead to, all that hatred. What Torah does, right, is it banishes that enemy and then can lead to something else. So when I put these two texts together, what I get is that how do we get to the shalom that we need? We need oaths, but we need actually two kinds of oaths. We do need the strength of Israel defending its citizens, etc. But we also need the strength of Torah to help us bring light to darkness, to help us build bridges to faraway places, because it's that kind of learning and enlightenment which will also make our world, which our students will use to make their world, they're going to inherit from us, an even better place, always to lead us towards shalom. I want to thank again everyone who's here in the debate. And I want to thank all of you who are on Zoom. It'll be even better to see you in person, but I'm so glad you chose to connect to us. And with all these thanks in mind, pause, stop sharing my screen, and see if there are any questions that people have. Now, it could be a good sign there are questions. Alan, thank you.
Well, thank you for the update. Great progress. Can you go a little bit more? You mentioned Dr. Mann and helping students, and how is that different than what Jill does?
Thank you. I'll repeat the question for those on Zoom. How is the work of Dr. Mann, the BCBA, the board certified behavioral analyst, different from what our school counselor Jill does, and I might add psychologists and therapists and things like that? So first I'll say there's a place for all kinds of specialists, and it's often knowing, who's the right person to help me with my situation. Dr. Mann's work is focused on behavior and on both the incentives that exist to help kids make their best choice. And she believes, or she teaches us, that people, not just students, but people always make the best choice they can at that time, right? But the conditions might not support the choice that we want them to make. And so what are the incentive students in the class, incentive systems in the class that might be helpful? What are techniques students can use to, whether it's calm themselves down or redirect themselves, and how can teachers help students do that? So it's a behavioral focus, and it looks at the things that feed into behavior and how to yield the behavior and the kavod that we want. Thank you. Any other questions? Again, programmatic, curricular, operations, etc. So with that in mind, I'll say I'm always here for more questions. I want to thank everyone who came out tonight. Even if you're sitting on your sofa at home, you spent almost an hour together coming to hear about where we are. We will be sharing this recording, and I hope that if you got something out of it, that you tell your friends to give it a look too. Whether they're current parents at Schechter and they might love to know more about what's been happening, or people in the community who's could learn more about our story. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night.